Hi everybody, and welcome to another one of my SahelKhanRecommends.com webinars. I do these webinars on a regular basis where I bring experts in. Most of these experts are my friends. I've either spoken with them on stage worldwide, or they're friends who have invited me to one of their events, or friends that I currently use their products and services. And I just want to tell the whole world about them. So first of all, thank you very much for registering onto this webinar. Establishing a US company to leverage more JVs. Now, as you know, I do a lot of JV deals, joint ventures, and I do a lot of business in the US, even though I'm originally from the UK. I've done a lot of business over the last 2 years in the United States, and it is very imperative, especially when you're dealing with companies in the US, to have a proper structure in place. And I've got my good friend here, Scott Letourneau, who's going to be taking you through all the elements of how to actually establish a company in the US, one of the biggest markets right now for selling any of your products or services. And I do a lot of business in the US, and that's where a majority of my income comes from. And it's a great place to do business, but obviously you have to follow the exact guidelines and procedures if you want to be doing a regular business in the US. So what I want you to do also before we begin the webinar is my domain name at the bottom there, SahelKhanRecommends.com. Do visit that and do put your details in there to be updated on any future webinars that we have. And what I'd like to do first of all is bring on my good friend, my good buddy Scott, and get him onto the webinar. Hi Scott, how are you?
Sohail, I'm outstanding. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm great. How's it over there in sunny Las Vegas?
Sunny Las Vegas is getting a lot warmer. It was cold the last couple of days, so we're excited about that. Everything's going great.
Excellent. Wish we had the weather that you have over there right now. It's raining currently here in the UK, and it's the skies are grey. Okay, so what I'll
Yes,
do,
yeah.
what I'll do, Scott, then I'll just hand over controls to you, and
Okay,
I'll let you take it away from there.
wonderful.
Excellent. There you go.
Okay, let me do this here. Well, good evening, everyone. Hopefully you're having an outstanding day so far. I'm really excited to be with everyone. As Sohail has mentioned, I am going to take you through a lot of strategy in about the next, I would say, 70 to 80 minutes. I hope you have a pen and paper handy because I'm going to give you really the full picture on how to leverage a U.S. company, how to leverage joint venture deals in the United States. I'm going to tell you the strategy, the costly mistakes to avoid, and how to really leverage business in the U.S. and how to do it properly. And I will explain in a few minutes a little bit more of my background and share some of the strategies that we're going to cover with you today. So we're going to talk about the critical steps to keeping your pounds, your business you're acquiring in the UK, and leveraging more U.S. joint venture deals. And what I'm going to do is I have a real serious question. Who is really serious about keeping your pounds? Because we want to talk about that also today. You know, let me ask you this. Is one of the goals of the UK government, the European Union, it's 27 member states, do you think their goal is to lower your taxes with the current economic conditions? Will they help you keep more of your pounds, or do you think they're going to raise your taxes and take more of your pounds in your future JV deals? I think that should be a major concern for everyone, is what's going to be happening to your business. So is this going to be your future? Will you have the joys of being a JV broker like Sohail and learn from him? Where you'll be able to travel the world, enjoy time with yourself and your family, and really enjoy the good parts of life? And I hope that is the future for many of you. But the question I have, would your business in the UK currently survive the following? What happened to these gentlemen? They had an e-book of Dungeons and Dragons, and they didn't know they were illegally distributing the e-book as part of growing their business. And Thomas Patrick Nolan of Milton, Florida, and Arthur Lee of California, they had a settlement of $100,000 and $100,000 for copyright infringement. These were people that just got an online product. They're reselling it in their business, what they're doing. They got hit with this lawsuit. What about an ebook maybe he gave away to thousands for free? I won't give his name, but there's a very famous internet marketer who had an ebook for years that he thought he had the private label rights to, and he gave away thousands for free, and he forwarded an email to me a couple years ago where he got the original creator of the ebook was claiming he didn't have proper rights to it, and he wanted $29 for every ebook he gave away for free. Millions of dollars on the line. You know, what about a trademark or copyright infringement lawsuit? You know, if you have blogs, you're promoting your business, you write content, do you give proper trademark to company names? Are you violating some of these rules? Are you outsourcing your work? There's so many areas today in business where you really got to protect yourself properly because, you know, if you don't, it could be serious problems. Let me share with you for a moment a story that happened to me. You know, I'm sure you've all registered a domain name for your business, and probably what you do is go to a domain registration site, and you probably don't think twice, really. If the name's available, what do? You immediately grab it. Let me get that great domain name because that would be great for my business, for me doing JVs. And so we did that a few years ago. And what we did is we had a domain that was inc50.com because we incorporate in all 50 states in the U.S. So Inc50 sounds like a great domain name, right? And I was excited when it was available. Within a week and a half of us registering that domain name, we got hit with this, which was from one of the largest law firms in New York, which says unauthorized use and registration of Inc50.com. Guess who the letter was from the law firm representing what company? It was representing the trademark Inc. 500. I don't know, I thought 50 and 500 was very different, but not according to this massive law firm that thought that we were violating their rights. And what they said in the letter, it wasn't prove to us you were violating. It basically says, we know you are in violation. We're coming after you. So you need to know, what do you do to protect yourself? And I won't share the steps and process how we survived this near hit, which we did. But it has to be very important because if you don't do some of the things I'm going to talk about today, you don't consider protecting yourself, even if you're already structured in the UK, this might be your future, which is if you lose everything, you get hit with lawsuits. We're going to talk about it. A lot of people have lost everything in their business. A lot of people have left packing their bags, and it's a very difficult conversation with your spouse if you don't take the proper steps to protect yourself and to position yourself properly for more business. But what if it was a different scenario? What if half of your business is based in the United States? What if some of those JV broker deals you did over in the United States was in a separate legal entity and you were hit with a lawsuit in your home country? How now would it feel knowing you're protected and you're in the best position to leverage more U.S. joint venture opportunities? Wouldn't that be ideal? That's what we're going to talk about today. So here's what I have for you: how to protect your future joint venture business from shocking UK lawsuits. I'm going to share with you some statistics that are going to be really surprising. Why forming a U.S. company will help you protect your assets and how you can leverage the massive U.S. market for more business, and how to leverage U.S. joint ventures to explode your business. And also, I'm going to take you through the proper steps to establish a U.S. company and costly mistakes to avoid, because I'm going to tell you there's a lot of shortcuts on the internet, as you can imagine, and most of these online companies, they appear to tell you it's 2 or 3 simple steps. Well, it's never quite 2 or 3 simple steps, and the damage that can cause to your business is extraordinary. So I'm going to share with you the right way to get it done today. Let me share with you briefly my story, my background. I graduated in 1989 in Minnesota, which is on the Canadian border, a much colder climate than Las Vegas. And I graduated with a business finance degree in college. I formed my first company, a limited partnership with a group of investors. We traded stock options in college. A couple years later, I moved to a warmer climate to Las Vegas, Nevada. I worked with a company that formed Nevada Corporations at the time. And I was one of those people that is a very honest person that believes initially what people tell me. I was trained by this particular company, and I realized that over time, I'm one of these guys that likes to do my own research also. And I discovered that a lot of what I was being taught at the company was not accurate. They were very aggressive in their viewpoint about forming, say, a Nevada corporation. And I'm going to share more about that with you in a few minutes. Long story short, I really butted heads with philosophies, and I left that company, and I started my own journey of being an entrepreneur. In 1997, I founded my company, Nevada Corporate Planners. We've been on the internet since 1997. That's our corporate logo. Our office is in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's up in Summerlin. And what I focused on the first year especially is to get the right answers. I went and hired Deloitte & Touche, the big tax firm, about what's called the multi-state taxation rules, paid $400 to $600 an hour way back 15 years ago. And we began providing information on our website, which we still do today, about what works and what doesn't work. There's so much misinformation in this particular subject. We provide the services to form U.S. companies in all 50 states. We'll talk about what the best states are in a few minutes to do that. And what we have developed is an incredible reputation by some of the best marketers, attorneys in the world of doing it right. We don't tell you a couple steps and you skip some other steps later. We like to tell you the full picture of what happens and how to structure it properly. And we work with a great law firm, great accounting firm, immigration firm, and we'll talk more about that in a couple of minutes. 2003, I founded Fast Business Credit to help U.S. entrepreneurs understand how to get access to funding, cash, and capital for their business. 2008, I developed the Top 5% Club. My goal is for you to be part of the top 5% of business owners to succeed. As you probably know, up to 95% fail within 5 years. So I interview world-class experts on a monthly basis in the area of two components. Number one, how do you generate profits in the shortest period of time possible? Number two, how do you keep them? See, a lot of people teach how do you make a lot of money, but you also got to learn the other half is how to keep it. Because if you just make a lot of money, someone else is likely to want to take it from you. So we like to focus on both components. I am a busy entrepreneur with a family. Best decision I made to get married to my beautiful wife, Deanne, in 1996. She is a classical violinist. She's actually played in Europe, both in Italy and Germany, and also in Spain. She is currently the concertmaster Las Vegas Philharmonic, and I don't know if you're a Celine Dion fan. She's known worldwide, as you know. She's played in London, or performed, I should say, in London many times. And my wife, that's a picture of her playing with Celine Dion in Las Vegas. Currently, they're on break. And we have a cabin in the summertime. We go back and relax up in Minnesota, Wisconsin, where our families are from, and have three beautiful girls, Gracie, Rosie, and Faith, who are 10, 7, and 5. So I know what it's like to be a busy entrepreneur. I know what it's like if you want to protect your assets for your family. So everything I talk about today, I've gone through for myself. And, you know, you might think I'm surrounded by a lot of female energy, which is true. So when we got a new puppy last year, the question was, do I get to get a male dog? But this is Tashi, who's also female. And the kids are attempting to convince me that the fish we have are male. So, but I love my family and everything I do. I'm very passionate about it. I've been fortunate to do a lot of events and trainings around the world, NJVs. I've spoken 5 times at the World Internet Summit in Australia, New Zealand, the UK. That's a picture of myself and Tom Waugh, one of the co-founders of the World Internet Summit. Todd Falcone, you may know him in the U.S., one of the top trainers for the direct sales, network marketing industry in the world. Sean Higgins, you may have seen him do trainings in the UK. He's the guru when it comes to investing in U.S. tax liens or tax deeds, a very popular subject right now. You may have, I'm sure you've heard of T. Harv Eker, the Millionaire Mindset. I've done a private training for his platinum group of investors, and we also do all the entities I should mention for Sean's group. I'm a contributing author to the book, Start Your Own Information Marketing Business. A lot of people want to invest in information, so if you have it, it's a very valuable tool for yourself, very powerful. And also, Sandy Botkin is one of the top U.S. tax attorneys and CPAs when it comes to maximizing your business expenses. And so when he does his seminars in the United States, the only other company that he hands out information, we have an incredible CD bonus we give to his attendees, and he hands that out when he does his training. He is the #1 best-selling author in the United States when it comes to lowering your taxes. So that's a great compliment that Sandy's been working with us for years. I'm a huge fan of joint ventures, as Sohail is also an expert on that. He was one of our featured speakers at a recent Ultimate Joint Venture Boot Camp we had here right in Las Vegas. We've had for the last 3 years. It's a very powerful form of leverage. I'm going to give you a couple basic strategies for that today and how to leverage more joint ventures. Give you an example. In the state of Nevada, there's an association of enrolled agents. These are tax professionals that do tax returns. And when last summer they wanted somebody to come in and do a full training on entity structuring, how to protect your business, how all that flows together. And they had a choice of obviously so many top professionals throughout Nevada, but I'm grateful to say the person they chose was myself. I did a full 6-hour training for all those professionals. So my passion, again, is really helping you beat the odds. As I mentioned, 95% of small business owners fail within 5 years. And my goal is for you to be part of the top 5%. And how do you leverage opportunity? We're going to talk about that today. So you can experience the ripple effect. It's what I have with my family. I do have the luxury to travel. I was just back this last weekend to Wisconsin. My wife received a Lifetime Achievement Award in academics and is in the Hall of Fame of her school. Pretty good for somebody who's only 44, I thought. And so when you are able to incorporate these things I'm going to talk about today, in addition to what Sohail teaches you about being a joint venture broker, I really think you can experience this incredible effect, because when your business is successful, it can produce profit, which will help reduce stress, obviously, which will give you more time, more choices, more freedom with your family. And that is the goal. That's the ripple effect I really would like you to experience in your family. You know, who recommends NCP? Many world-class top marketers, including Sohail Khan, Chris Freville, you may know him from the UK, Rachel Quilty's from Australia, Tom Wall from Australia, you probably know Spike Humer. He's a turnaround expert here in the United States. I'm sure you've heard of Jay Abraham. He's been a client of ours also, and an incredible marketer. We'll talk about him in a minute. Sean Higgins, we talked about him and the incredible business he's doing. And there's many, many dozens and dozens and hundreds of others that recommend and endorse us. You'll see on our website if you go to, find Nevada Corporate Planners on the internet. Your biggest challenge, I'm going to tell you, is really this. It's taking the necessary precautions to protect your business and JVs from the unexpected. See, most people don't do this. They don't take the necessary precautions. They don't plan ahead. They don't put the foundation in place. They attempt to fix it later. It rarely works. Because without proper protection, one lawsuit could mean the end of your entire business operation. We're going to talk about that today and how to structure your business, even some tips on what you're doing in the UK. So the number one business solution is you want to separate for success. You want to separate what is called your personal and business assets. So in the UK, if you haven't done it, I'd recommend you form a separate company. Never operate as a sole trader in the UK. Many of you may be a sole trader because it's simple, but I would really recommend you form a separate legal entity in the UK. Also, if you're doing business in the United States, we'll talk about that also. Because you're really a big target if you're operating as a sole trader, especially in the United States. You know, you have unlimited personal liability if you're operating your own name. I know some people think about, geez, I don't have enough assets yet. I haven't done as many JV deals as I'd like to. But see, you can't protect yourself after you get sued. It's too late. So you got to do it first. You usually pay the most in taxes if you're a sole trader, and it sends a very negative marketing message, especially when you're doing JVs. This is a critical point. See, most people don't point this out. See, if you're operating your business in your own name and you're doing business with somebody and you want to broker a JV deal and you're presenting yourself as this professional JV broker and you're a sole trader, well, what does somebody automatically think if you're a sole trader? Typically, they might think you're probably new. Maybe you don't make much money yet. You wanted to keep it simple. Maybe you couldn't afford to form a separate legal entity. These are all the thoughts going through their mind. And so the goal is to eliminate those thoughts when you're going to leverage all the JV deals you can be doing in the future. So I'd strongly recommend if you are a sole trader that you get off that track immediately as you move forward. Let's talk about lawsuits. I know it's not everybody's favorite subject, but we got to deal with reality. And lawsuits are out of control worldwide. Libel cases in the UK has hit a 10-year high, in case you weren't aware of it, fueled by the Internet. I'll give you some more stats in a minute. The second most lawsuits per state in the world is New South Wales, Australia. Does anybody know what the #1 state in the world is for lawsuits? You know, we are on a webinar. You can type me a quick message. But I'm going to tell you the #1 state in the world for lawsuits happens to be good old California, which is, of course, next door to Nevada. And so you really want to protect yourself properly. Now, imagine, you know, when you file a lawsuit, typically you have to go to, at least the United States, you go down to the clerk's office where you file a lawsuit, then someone's served, and there's steps to do a lot of paperwork. Imagine how crazy the world would get if you could sue someone from your home computer. Imagine if you had a bad experience and you just filed a lawsuit online from your home computer. I mean, it sounds like fantasy land, right? Well, in Florida, in Miami, a city in Florida, this is a quote from Judith Krieger, who's a Miami judge and chair of the Florida Courts of Technology. She says, the minute you file that baby, it's going to be on the Internet. Now, that is really crazy, and what they're attempting to do is to improve technology and eliminate paperwork, but lawsuits are getting easier to file all the time. Give you an example of a little lawsuit in Florida. A particular person was awarded $11.3 million over defamatory Internet post. Yes, I said it correctly, defamatory Internet post, meaning they said something not nice about another person or company, damaged their reputation, which was costly. So you got to be really aware of what you're posting, and I'll give you a couple more details on that in a minute. Now, the world has gone insane. There's certain liability descriptions on products and services that you would think it's crazy, but it's all generated by lawsuits. And especially with the uncertain economy that's in Europe and also in the United States, lawsuits are going to be on the rise. So on the Apple iPod, it actually says in the part of the little manual they give you is do not eat. I mean, it sounds crazy. Well, it says Apple iPod, so obviously someone sued them over that. On a hair dryer, it has the disclaimer, do not use while sleeping. Well, duh. You probably don't want to use the hair dryer while you're sleeping in bed. It might start a fire, cause some problems. How about this one, an electrical rotary tool? This product is not intended for use as a dental drill. So obviously someone decided to take that drill that usually you'd make a hole in the wall and stick it in their mouth, and they sued the company over that. Here's one of my favorite ones. Superman costume says this costume is not suitable for flying. Yes, just because you put on that costume doesn't mean you're actually Superman and you can fly. So these are real lawsuits that have happened to cause these companies and products and services to put ridiculously sounding disclaimers. Now you might be thinking, well, the good thing you live in the UK, right? Well, let's look at some increases in civil actions in the UK. In 2003, there was 1.7 million. 2008, it was over 2 million. A couple years ago, that's an 18% increase in just 5 years in the UK. In 2008, it is on the rise. So you don't want to be left with nothing. You want to protect yourself. Let's talk about some other threats to your business in the UK. If you have a website for your business, here's some of the lawsuit categories that were in those statistics: domain name issues, copyright infringement, trademark infringement, defamatory claims, data protection. The housing chief recently awarded a record liable settlement of over £100,000 was a landmark payout. UK, you may have seen this, has gone Conkers. Conkers, of course, is the game that's traditionally played by children using the seeds of a horse chestnut, right? It's been around since the 1600s. It's now a directly effective in the UK as law. You can play, but they changed the rules for liability. The traditional game is not allowed in many UK schools. Fear that you could be head in the eye with this thing. Lawsuits are triggering all these changes. Let's talk about the internet. Obviously, a very powerful tool we all use when it comes to doing JV broker deals. You know, this a couple of years ago, MySpace won a civil lawsuit against Stanford Walls for violating the U.S. Spam Act to the tune of $230 million. Facebook came back and went after the same guy for $711 million in damages against this one person for violating spamming. He did a lot of it. It's not like he spammed one time. So here's what's very interesting. This is what the general counsel, the attorney for Facebook, said. It's not the first time it's brought such a case, and it won't be the last. So they're very aware of these things, and you got to really protect yourself. Now, maybe use Twitter. I use Twitter. I use Facebook. You might be sending tweets out. You got to be careful. Here's a case where the landlord sued was bad for you. Well, Horizon Realty thinks it's okay. So obviously it was a slam against the realty company because the tenant thought her apartment was moldy, but guess what? Turned around, the landlord sued her for $50,000 for loss of reputation because she posted that tweet on Twitter. So, you know, we all get upset at times. You might have bought a product or service. You weren't happy with it. Just be very careful. I wouldn't use the Internet as a forum to air out your complaints because it may come back to haunt you. Now, you might be thinking, Scott, don't worry, I'm going to win the lawsuit, but you still got to pay all the legal fees. The emotional stress and lack of focus is costly. You know, you'll never get back. The one most important commodity is loss of time, and you become financially paralyzed. Now, if you get sued, no financial lender wants to lend you money because if you're currently involved in a lawsuit, another reason not to be a sole trader is when you get sued, the application for the finance or the loan typically will say, are you currently involved in a lawsuit? And no lender worldwide wants to lend you money if you're currently involved in a lawsuit, so you'd be financially paralyzed. Again, another reason to protect yourself. Now, you're going to regret if you don't protect yourself if it's too late, because once it's too late, we can't help you. And so you don't want to be feeling like this guy does, which is wishing, I have a ton of boulders on my shoulders, I have a big headache, it's a pain in the neck, and what am I going to do now in my business? So we want to prevent that from happening. To really have you want to put you in a different position that when you protect yourself properly, when you do the steps I'm going to share with you next, and you structure things properly, and if someone did sue you in the UK, maybe they sued you in the US, I'd rather you feel like this guy and tell him where to go, or I think this means the same thing universally worldwide, basically to screw off and leave me alone. That's when you're really protected. We're going to show you how to do that. So the key to success is really to own nothing and control everything. And when you do business, how many of you know what the worst number in business is? You can type it to me, because it's very important to know this. And many people make this costly mistake. Well, the worst number in business is, of course, the number 1. See, if you have only one affiliate, one client from a JV, one website, one source of traffic, one vendor, one payment gateway or merchant account. I talked to a top marketer the other day in the UK, and now they're, even the big outlet for doing affiliate programs when it comes to, let's see, what's the company's name? It'll come to me in a moment, but they're changing the rules because they're under a lot more scrutiny from the U.S. FTC. So what happens is some of the companies that do, for example, affiliate type marketing, or you can buy and sell products on there, they're under a lot more scrutiny. And so you really got to protect yourself. You may even want to have more than one merchant account for your particular business in one company. A lot of people have all their business in one company. Now, if you've been around for 15 years and you operate all your business through one company and your one business gets sued, you could have 15 years down the tubes. You could lose everything. So actually, the longer you're in business, the more risk you have if you operate everything through one particular company. In one bank account, a lot of people just want to have everything at one bank. Well, you've seen what's happened in the U.S. with banks consolidating these things, so I would recommend you don't have one in any of these categories. So you don't want to put all your business eggs in one corporate basket, because one lawsuit you could still, they have a separate company for, every airplane, for their mobile division, for their racing division, for their vacation division, their green fund division, more nonprofit. See, all are separate companies. They diversify their assets and liability. It's the way to structure a business. Now, the worst belief in this particular area, a lot of people say to me, Scott, I want to keep it simple. I just want everything easy. Well, simple and asset protection is inversely related, so that is a problem. Okay, so let's talk about and shift for a moment to your U.S. opportunity. We're going to talk about for your business. Many of you are very successful in your business in the UK. You might be getting a lot of clients online. You are looking to broker more deals, and there are tremendous opportunities in the United States when it comes to brokering deals. And so we're going to show you how to do that. First, let's talk about the benefits for having a U.S. entity. Number one is asset protection. You get to access, when you do it properly, the massive U.S. online business. The U.S. is estimated to spend over $183.9 billion in 2012 on the Internet sales. That is a massive, massive number. And so a lot of people are coming to U.S. to hold different investments. Could be gold or silver, because they want those safe assets in a legal structure outside of the UK. A lot of people are investing in U.S. real estate, tax liens, tax deeds, and looking to take advantage of our depressed U.S. real estate market. Obviously, one of the huge advantages to having a U.S. entity is doing profitable U.S. JV deals. We'll talk about all this in the next few minutes. Let's talk about asset protection. So if you're, let's say you have a limited a company in the UK, if you get sued, even at the entity level, I know, I guess different countries have different rules on the amount you could lose, as far as, I believe in Germany, for example, a little bit separate, as a separate country in Europe, it's like a $50,000 limit, but you could potentially lose, most or all of your business in the UK if you get sued. Now, what if you separated your UK business and now you have a separate U.S. entity? What happens, any lawsuits that happen in the UK are not going to carry over to your U.S. business. You have this wall of separation between the two, and in essence, you're protecting your assets. And the actuality is it would be very expensive for someone to go to a different country to chase you and get your assets in the UK. So it's a powerful strategy. The other is the current economic crisis, which has been the same since about the last 2008. As you know, in the U.S., this is an election year for a new president, potentially new president, I guess I should say. And what's going to happen is, more than likely, the market will be propped up this year in the United States because it's an election year. A lot of people are concerned, including myself, economically, what's going to happen in 2013 and beyond in the United States. But the good news for you is that means that's an opportunity, because as we have more corporate layoffs, you may saw in the USA Today newspaper in the United States or any online news publication, Yahoo today announced they're laying off 2,000 workers. And so you see that unemployment, the real estate, there's still a record number of foreclosures, especially in Then there's a lot of uncertainty with the U.S. dollar. This all equals a starving U.S. market for your Internet solutions. So whatever product you're serving, if you're using the Internet to acquire leads, customers, or clients, it's a huge opportunity. Now you add the current 8.3 U.S. unemployment rate. What that equates to is about 15 million people who are out of work, plus about 20 million people who are part-time workers and those who have dropped out. That's a staggering 35 million people looking for money, looking for income. They're looking to start a business. It could be an Internet business, could be a direct sales business. They're looking for opportunities, and so they may be looking for your company. And so where are they going to turn? Well, of course, they're going to go to the Internet. That's the easiest solution to find opportunity. As I mentioned, the U.S. consumer is going to spend a staggering $183.9 billion online this So I didn't have current ones from, like, for example, New Zealand in 2007 was 1.5 billion, Australia was 68 billion, and the UK from 2009, a couple years ago, was close to $65 billion. So you can see the differences. Now, they might be a little bit 10% higher in the current years, but you can see it's a dramatic difference that U.S. is the largest online market in the world. Now, let me explain to you something very, very important. You want to pay attention to this slide, because we're going to talk about the U.S. consumer's online purchasing pattern. Now, this may be very similar in the UK, for example. Now, so if I'm a U.S. consumer, I'm going to go on the Internet to maybe purchase your product or service. Usually people that buy online are still a little bit skeptical, right? And I'm already thinking in my mind, if I purchase your product or service and I buy it online, if there's any problems, what is the customer service going to be like? And if you appear to be offshore, meaning if I go to your website and you're only based in the UK, and I go to your web page and I look at the About Us or how to contact you, and I only say a UK address on your website, immediately what's going to go through my mind is, hey, if I have an issue with this company in the UK, I'm not sure if I could even know what step one is to get a refund. They could easily not give me a refund, not return my calls, and because you're a whole country away, so I have really no recourse. If I have no recourse and I'm uncertain, you know what I'm going to do on your website? I'm going to hit the back arrow, and I'm going to go back to my Google search, and I'm going to find the next company under the key term I searched, and I'm going to look for a company that has some type of U.S. office, because I'm going to feel similarly that you might be when you're doing business in the UK. So how does the U.S. consumer know this? They know it because, they go online. They look at the About Us section. Now, so the secret ingredient when you're doing business in the United States, when you're looking to do joint venture deals, the secret ingredient, it's been known by products like Coke and KFC. They all have secret ingredients, right? Everybody wants to know what the secret recipe is. And so the secret ingredient to doing business in the United States, to being successful, are you ready? Here it is. It's develop trust. So the key question is, what level of trust are you developing with the U.S. market for JVs, internet activity? And the question is, will the U.S. online consumers trust you? That is the key component. So let me ask you this question when it comes to developing trust and how you do that. What appears bigger? If your business is in the UK only, or the United States? Well, it's obvious. If you had a business in the United States and let's say a business and an office in the U.S., now all of a sudden you look like you're multinational. So you have two offices worldwide, and the marketing and JV value is enormous. It's enormous because now you can articulate to someone in the United States and say, you know what, I have an office in the United States, I have an office in the UK. Would you feel more comfortable to do the contract with my U.S. office, which is also a separate U.S. company? And that is going to be powerful. That's going to be an amazing opportunity for you to do JVs, do more of them with this U.S. opportunity. So that is key, because when you have a U.S. office and a U.S. company, that's how you develop trust, because now you look like any other U.S. company, right? So the key to success is model the best. Let me give an example. These are good friends of mine. And when you go to their website, what you notice is pretty interesting. You'll see that they have two flags, right? So they have down here this is their corporate offices in Australia, and they run their office through us. We have a service for an office lease. We answer their phone lines, run their U.S. business for them, and so they have the U.S. flag. Now, somebody as a U.S. consumer can look at this and say, oh, wow, this company has office in the United States and offices in Australia. I feel much more comfortable doing business with them. Even different individuals worldwide would feel more comfortable if they're in two different jurisdictions. Wow, this must be a bigger company. I feel more comfortable doing business with them. So what you want to do is stop flushing your profits down the toilet, because if you really don't have this in place, you're losing out on opportunities, especially if you sell any product to a U.S. company. There's no additional marketing expense. If you're already doing AdWords to the United States, or if you already have a blog, you're doing articles, you're doing videos, and you're getting traffic to your website. If you're doing some type of lead generation, have a product or service, you're spending the marketing money anyways. So if you're spending the marketing money anyways for a small investment by having a U.S. company, which I'll go through in a few minutes, you can be in a position to leverage an opportunity. Because if you don't, you're never going to be able to track in your bounce rate on your website how many people clicked off for the reason that you were just based in the UK. And this goes the same for your JV deals. You may never hear back from that JV opportunity, and you may not know that the simple reason they didn't want to do business with you is maybe you didn't have a U.S. company, so they didn't feel as comfortable with you. So you really want to protect yourself. Let's talk for a moment about what I said earlier, business failure rates. You know, in the first year, as I mentioned, up to 50% of businesses fail within the first year, right? And what happens is by year 5, up to 80 to 95% will fail in their business. And by year 10, of the 5% that make it past year 5, only 4% will make it to year 10. So if you find a company that's been around like ours has for 15 years, that's really an extraordinary statistic. And if you've been around for 10 years, congratulations to you. That's extraordinary, because it is very difficult. Okay, so what is the secret to business success? I want to share it with you today. The secret is two powerful words. Are you ready for these two powerful words? Here they are. Massive profits. That is the secret to business success, is massive profits. There's no other point to be in business. Certainly not to have more overhead, more stress, work more hours, have more liability. It has nothing to do with any of those. Unfortunately, that's what most experience. The goal is massive profits. So in order to generate massive profits, there's three ways to grow a business. You may have seen this before. What is the three ways to grow a business? You can send me a quick message. Okay, very good. Here is number one. Increase the number of customers. What is the fastest way to increase the number of customers, the least expensive, the highest form of leverage? It's to master joint ventures, right? That is the best way, is to master joint ventures, right? Okay, so the next way is to increase the average transaction value. That means, do you have other products or services to offer to your particular clients or customers? That is very important. And the third way, of course, to grow your business is to increase the number of transactions per year, meaning to have other products or services. Another powerful way to do joint ventures, maybe someone else will have their products or service they might offer to your list, of which you might get a referral fee for, or some type of affiliate fee. So these are the three ways to grow a business, and you want to focus in each area. Obviously, the fastest way is to increase the average transaction value and the number of transactions per year. So to maximize U.S. joint ventures, my good friend Jay Abraham said, Scott, you want to partner with other successful companies. You want to do joint ventures. You want to become a JV broker. That's the key to financial success, because if you don't leverage assets, if you don't leverage other people's resources, the millions of dollars they've already invested, you're more than likely going to perish because you can't financially afford to compete in this current marketplace. You can do JVs through teleseminars, webinars like we're doing today, speaking, cross-promotions. U.S. entrepreneurs and JVs with international companies with no U.S. presence equals no JV. So if you're internationally and you want to do business with U.S. entrepreneurs, now you might have a relationship with someone. Obviously that helps. I'm going to tell you they're going to feel more comfortable and you will get more of them faster when you have a U.S. company. Can you do it without a U.S. company? Yes, you can, but you're going to get more opportunities with one. So each opportunity is costing you 5, 50, 100,000 pounds or more to your business. So the key question for JV success, and you want to write this down. Absolutely, this is $1 million question you should be asking yourself every day in your business. And the question is, where do your clients or customers go for business before, during, and after they need your service or product? That is crucial. And you want to find those companies that have influence and access to your market and who are respected. So what that means, you obviously know what your market is. You want to find those companies. Where do your clients and customers go before they do business with you? Who already has access to those people? Do they have influence? Do they have a good reputation? Are they respected? Do they have access, meaning do they market to the list? Do they have the list? Very powerful. So let me share with you just a slide or two about a very common, powerful strategy for you to leverage JVs. It's called the host-beneficiary relationship. In the host-beneficiary relationship, you have a host-beneficiary relationship where company A, the host, agrees to let company B, the beneficiary, deliver a sales message that people are using company A's customers or clients. So what happens is, let's say your company B, your company is in the UK. You are a beneficiary. You are looking to do a joint venture with a U.S. company. They have access to your market, and you want them to promote your product or service to their list. Of course, you would never language it that way. The way you would language it is you have a way to add more value to help that company A bring in more customers or clients. You have the ability to add more value to their current customers or clients, and you're willing to do it free at no cost to them. That's how you would position it. So you, as Company B, deliver a sales message to a U.S. company. What happens in order to obviously get exposure, Company A has to send an email, for example, out to their list about, for example, a webinar, as I'm doing with Sohail. And so when the email goes out, obviously you need to know who the presenter is. You're automatically getting immediate exposure at no cost to you. Now what happens next is that some of those people are going to come back and do business with you, and then you are going to get new clients or customers at no cost to you. See, Company A spent millions of dollars in marketing, trust, branding, loyalty, customer service, and if you position it properly, they're going to promote you at no cost. Zero marketing dollars to you, very powerful strategy. So it's the greatest form of leverage. So for example, let's say Company A has been in business for 5 years. They have 2,000 clients. They do revenues of over $3 million a year in the United States. They've invested time, money to develop their brand, rapport, attract, retain clients. You're the beneficiary. Let's say you're your first year in business. And now if you do it properly, there's zero cost to access their list, zero advertising dollars, zero marketing dollars. That's why joint ventures, mastering this subject, is the most powerful form of leverage there is today. Now, when you're doing U.S. JV deals, a U.S. entrepreneur, this is very, very important, always feels more comfortable when, this is critical, the JV broker agreement is through the U.S. company. I'll say it again. The U.S. entrepreneur always feels more comfortable when the JV broker agreement is through a U.S. company. In other words, you have your U.S. company, you're working, say, with my company, and I'm going to be working with another U.S. company. So you might ask, why is that? Well, it has to do with legal jurisdiction. See, if we have a disagreement and we have a legal issue, it's going to be much more inexpensive for my attorney to talk to your attorney and to work with your U.S. company because it's within the laws of the U.S., and it's going to be much less expensive. If the jurisdiction is in the U.K., and I got to hire a UK lawyer, it's going to be much more expensive to do that. And many times, if there's a written contract, the deal is just not going to happen. There are exceptions. Yes, does it happen where they'll do it with your UK company and feel totally comfortable? Absolutely. Do you want to get more deals? Do you want more profitability faster, more often? Absolutely, this makes more sense. So let's cover for a few minutes the proper U.S. structure. A lot of misconceptions about this. So here's what you want to avoid. You want to avoid what I call is the Band-Aid approach. See, a lot of people will, they might have had a U.S. company from a couple years ago. They had an EIN number. They went online and they paid a couple $100 to form some articles. And they're going to hear what I'm going to present next, and they want to fix it. They want to patch it. They want to put Band-Aids over it. And what happens is that's almost always going to come back to haunt you, and you're going to be very disappointed you took that approach. So I'm going to tell you right up front, you want to avoid the Band-Aid approach that's most expensive. So let me share with you about 15 years of research. Now, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, I did a 6-hour training with the U.S., I should say the Nevada Enrolled Agent Society on this, so I'm only going to share with you a couple slides. So I'm going to give you a very good overview of how U.S. structuring works so you understand 80% of the fundamentals. There's always some nuances. Everybody's situation is slightly different, typically, but let me give you a quick overview. So the choices as far as U.S. entities, either a corporation or something called an LLC, a limited liability company. I will tell you that most people, even in the United States, when they form an LLC, don't know how it's taxed, and there's 4 different methods. But I'm going to tell you the 2 major factors to decide if you should be a corporation or LLC. One has to do with liability. The other has to do with taxes. We're going to address both issues. So let's talk about the LLC versus the corporation. So if you form an LLC and you're from the UK or anywhere else in the world for that matter, the question is, how is the LLC going to be taxed? Well, in 1997, the IRS set up what are called federal default rules that says by default, here's how it's going to be taxed. If you have a two-member LLC, so let's say you're a husband and wife in the UK, and you set up a U.S. LLC in Nevada, and you have two members, you'll be taxed by default federally as a partnership. Now, Nevada, by the way, has no state taxes. We'll talk more about that in a minute. So if you have one member, that means the LLC will be taxed as a disregarded entity. That means the entity does not do a federal tax return, just you do a personal tax return. But for liability reasons, you still have a separate legal entity. Now, a lot of people don't know this, and we have a tax firm that works with our clients. They understand international taxation. So let's say you set up a U.S. LLC tax as a partnership, I should say, and let's say you are the husband and wife of the foreign partners in the UK. Now, the question is, how does U.S. taxes work? Well, when you have profits in the U.S. LLC, the profits would technically flow through to the owners, which is you and your spouse in the UK. The U.S. requires you pay a flat 30% withholding tax. Now, there's a tax treaty with the UK and the U.S. You would get a credit for that amount in the UK, so you would not be double taxed. And that's how that works. Whether it's a limited company or an individual, if it's earned income, it's a flat 30%. Now, in the U.S., if you have an LLC, it's a calendar year end, meaning December 31st is when the tax year ends. And you would have to file what's called Form 1065. It's due on April. Now, let's look at a U.S. corporation. Now, it has its own tax rates. It has its own tax rate. You pay 15% up to $50,000 in net profit. So if you set up a U.S. corporation to be a JV broker, and let's say you netted, after all your expenses, traveling, seminars, training, courses, you netted $50,000 in profits, the corporation would only pay $7,500 in taxes, 15%. That's pretty low, huh? Now, let's say in the U.S. you paid yourself the U.S. tax bracket up to $35,000, $350. It's only 15% also. So again, we're talking fairly low tax brackets on lower numbers. In the U.S. corporation would file a federal tax form 1120. The fiscal year end. These details you may not need to know about, but I thought I'd share it with you. The question is, when is the tax return due for a corporation? Your fiscal year end would be next year at the end of March 31st to go for a full 12 months. And the corporate return would be due 75 days after, which would be June 15th of 2013. So that's kind of how the tax year flows for a U.S. corporation. It's based upon when you file, when you choose to have the corporate year end. And Nevada, for example, we formed the corporation here. There's no state corporate income taxes or state tax return due for that matter. It's a little bit easier and more beneficial, which we'll talk about in a moment. And that is the U.S. federal tax return that would be filed. Again, our tax firm would help you do that. Let me just share with you some corporate tax rates you can just share with quickly. As I mentioned, the lowest tax bracket is at 15% up to $50,000 in profits. And you can kind of see this little chart here as it goes based upon your profitability. Let's talk about a U.S. personal tax return, because I know a lot of companies will have you if you're a foreigner, you're going to do a personal tax return called a 1040-NR. Now, this is based upon if you received any income or distributions. Now, if you're a C corporation and no money is paid out, you would not have to file a 1040-NR. But a 1040-NR is a personal tax return. For NR stands for non-resident. It's due on April 15th if you had wages, or if you didn't have wages paid to you, it would be due by June 15th each year. Here's what that form looks like. Again, very important to be compliant with U.S. taxes. Now, you might be thinking, taxes, I'm in the U.K. If I screw it up, what's the big deal? I've had a company before. The IRS can't go after me, can they? Well, not true. The IRS each year has a $300 billion tax gap. This was an article in the USA Today Money section a couple years ago, and it says Congress was going after eBay sellers because people selling eBay products worldwide and in the U.S. didn't realize they're operating a real business. Business, not as a hobby. And one of the number one reasons in the U.S. the IRS looks for is, do you have any accounting tools? Do you use things like QuickBooks to track your expenses? We have programs to train you on this. We provide these tools and solutions to help you run your business as a real business in the U.S., not just a hobby, not just filing an LLC online, so we want to make sure you're protected. Now, as far as structure, as far as liability, let's talk about this for a minute. I'm going to grab a little different pointer here. So when the best state we're going to talk about is going to be Nevada if you're international. I'll give you a couple more reasons for that. I know some people have heard of Delaware, Wyoming, things of that nature. And what makes Nevada unique is that whether you have an LLC or a corporation, it has something called the charging order protection. And it's an extra layer of protection at no additional cost. Now, normally throughout the United States, the charging order only applies to LLCs. Nevada is the only state it also applies to corporations. Your business, you always have to address what happens if your business is sued. I mean, worst case scenario, you could lose all your assets in your business, right? Now, a lot of people forget about is what happens if you get sued personally for something unrelated to the operating business. And we had a person a few years ago that had a California corporation. Their 17-year-old son got a DUI, which means driving under the influence. They drank too much alcohol. And unfortunately, they got in a car accident, and the person almost died, and they became a quadriplegic. And they sued the family for $4 million. And the biggest asset the family had was stock in their own business. Long story short, they lost control of their entire business and basically all their net worth in that business because of a personal lawsuit unrelated to the business. Now, if they would have been an LLC or would have been business in Nevada, if somebody goes after you personally, the charging order protection says you do not get control of the ownership down here. You only get access to distributions and profits, so they're not going to get control of the ownership percentage, which is a good thing. So it's extra layer of protection. Now, for many of you, obviously you may be thinking, well, the ownership is going to be me in the UK, so they have to go after you in the UK, which is true, which is more difficult, more expensive. But the good news is you have this extra layer of protection when you form a Nevada corporation or an LLC called the charging order, which is very, very powerful, and it's really a huge advantage from a marketing point of view. So let's talk about another steps to keep your pounds is a lot of people talk about a U.S. bank account. Scott, what are my options for banking, a brokerage account? How does that work? I'm going to tell you that the banking and brokerage industry changes almost every 6 months. We have multiple banks and brokerage firms we work with. Some have more requirements than others. Some require you come to the United States to open the account. Some require you don't come to the United States. Some require you have an ITIN number first. So let me give you some of the criteria. So you have to have a Nevada office. For example, some of the brokerage firms want the utility bill, something similar with your address on the bill. You have to have, for example, in Nevada, your list of officers filed. You have to have an EIN number. An EIN number, we get that with the entity. That part is fairly easy to obtain. Some banks want to see an ITIN number. That is very difficult to obtain. It takes about 2 or 3 months to get one of those. Obviously, they need the individual signer information. They need an initial deposit. And the big question, as I mentioned, you have to travel to the United States. Like I say, when you work with us, we do have a solution where you don't have to come to the United States. And there are other solutions that when you do come to the United States or when we get the ITIN number for you. So here's one of the biggest issues. See, in the United States, probably like in Europe, you can get a P.O. box. And a lot of people get a P.O. box because it's simple, it's easy, it doesn't cost a lot of money. The problem is in the United States, that doesn't develop a lot of trust. See, in the United States, when we see a website that only has a P.O. box on and no physical address, the immediate thought that goes through our mind is somebody's trying to hide something, or they're being too cheap. How come they didn't put a physical address on? Do they not have a real office? Are they just operating another home? Is this somebody you want to do business with? So it induces a lot of doubt. So that's why I say or do you have the illusion of a real business or not? So let's look at the illusionary U.S. business if you just have a P.O. box. So you don't want to have that. You want to have a physical address with a lease agreement. Do you have a virtual phone number that just rings into a virtual voicemail, or do you have a local U.S. phone number? Makes a lot more sense. Do you only have voicemail only? Nobody ever answers your phone. That's another red flag here in the U.S. So you don't want to have that. You want to have something that has live customer service support. Now, when you have a Nevada business office location, again, you must have a lease agreement. P.O. box is not just good enough. You should cover office space usage. You might say, why do I need that? I'm not coming to Nevada or to the United States. I know you're not coming, but again, we're looking to do more JV broker deals. We want to give the impression that you're a real U.S. business, and we want a real U.S. business typically has an office. Mail forwarding support is important. Live staff to answer your calls. So those are all important. Let's talk for a moment about which state's best to form your U.S. company. You'll hear on the internet, if you research Nevada, you'll see ads about Wyoming. And what's really happening is Wyoming is promoted as the cheaper version to Nevada. What that means is you can achieve the same benefits in Wyoming, no state corporate taxes, which is true. Wyoming doesn't have state corporate taxes. And you'll get the same liability protection that Nevada offers. That part is not true. And so they're saying for $200 less, just go to Wyoming. Well, that really, for most of you, is not going to make any sense because you want to do it properly. Now, you also may hear of Delaware. Delaware is a very popular state in the United States on the East Coast. Hundreds of thousands of companies have been formed in Delaware. Now, Delaware does have a state tax rate of 8.7%. And so if you are doing business in Delaware, the time it makes sense to have a Delaware company is if you're going public. So public is one of those things that 99% of all businesses are never going to go public and go on the, raise money and go on the stock exchange like Facebook is soon going to do, right? Be like a Google or something. So for most of you, because of the high tax rate, Delaware does not make sense for you. Nevada is going to be, for most of you, outside the United States, is going to be the best option. Now, we do incorporate in all 50 states. You might have a partner in the United States in a different state that would change the strategy a little bit. But in Nevada, there's no state taxes, which is ideal, and it has the most protection. Nevada will protect you as the corporate officer better than any other state. It's very difficult to go through the LLC or corporation and pierce the entity veil to go after you personally. So it provides by far the greatest level of protection, most tax advantages. And as I said, it's the most difficult state to pierce the corporate veil. That means basically prove that the entity was just you didn't operate it properly, and Nevada is very pro-business in protecting yourself. Let's talk about a couple other key components to keeping your pounds. You're going to need a federal tax ID number, an EIN number, and an ITIN number. Most people don't tell you about the second one. Now, you get these through the IRS. The EIN number is on the form SS4. It's for your company, for the entity. Now, when we get it in the United States for you with the IRS, we have to call the IRS on the phone. Some people say you can get it online. That's not true. If it's an international person, we don't have a U.S. Social Security number, which is fine. So what we have to do is put on the form that you're a foreigner, and then what that requires is we have to call in, go through the form, and fax it into the IRS. So you can't get it online like you can if somebody is in the United States with a Social Security number. The ITIN is Form W-7. There's lots of other requirements that are necessary. This is the equivalent of a U.S. Social Security number. Some of the banks do want that to open up a U.S. bank account. It does take about 2 months to get that accomplished. Now, if you were paying attention, you probably just heard me say, wait a minute, Scott, if I want to open a U.S. bank account and I need an ITIN number, it takes 2 months. That doesn't make any sense. What do I do for 2 months? Well, that's a good question, but that's one of the options. We do have other options that don't require the ITIN number up front. Now, it may not be an ideal option, maybe like a brokerage account. We do want to get your ITI number up front because it takes 2 months, because that's going to open up more possibilities for you with other banking options in the future for your JV deals. Now let's talk about, as I just mentioned already, I guess I covered that, some of the banking issues with the ITIN numbers. It's just a matter of choices. If you have the ITIN, you have more choices. You will need the ITIN for sure when it comes a year later to file U.S. taxes. Now let me share with you an ideal structure to protect your wealth in the United States. You can write this down. Now for some of you it'll be slightly different. It might be a corporation in one of these boxes. But you really want to separate your safe assets. Safe assets would be things like gold, silver, stocks, and other company from real estate should be in one entity. Now, if you buy lots of U.S. real estate and you have a lot of equity, that might be in several separate LLCs. And most of you are going to start off with a JV LLC or a JV corporation, which also could do business in the United States. That's probably the first step for most of you. You as the owner, or maybe your UK company would be the owner, depending upon where you want the profit to flow, would be how that structure would look for you. Now, what do some other people say about working with our company, Nevada Corporate Planners? This is what Chris Frevel has said. You probably know him as he's a top UK marketing expert. He says, Scott took me through absolutely everything that was needed to be done to set up with a U.S. corporation. He answered all my questions, really made sure I was up to date, understanding the whole procedure from start to finish and getting incorporated in the United States. Nevada Corporate Planners did everything for me, and I can't thank them enough. We have dozens and dozens of video testimonials, audio testimonials on our website, which is nvinc.com, nvinc.com. You'll see dozens of these. I just want to share one quick one for you. So let me ask you an important question. Who else wants to leverage more U.S. JV broker deals and protect your pounds? So if you would really like to leverage some JV broker deals, I'm going to give you a resource here. We're going to finish up here in a couple minutes. I'm going to make this very simple. And I want to give you a simple yet complete solution. See, if you just do simple and it's not complete, then you get sued and you lose everything. So here's how you can work with our company, Nevada Corporate Planners. We provide the complete solution for you in a minute. I'm just going to give you some contact information, how to get a hold of our company, because I know each of you have unique situations. Obviously, you may want to go through pricing. I'll give you kind of a general idea in a moment. And what are the fees to form a solution. We do provide a 30-minute free consultation. Typically, we prefer to contact you on Skype. We'll set a time to go through your situation. We will then, we form the LLC or corporation. We provide an LLC or corporate record book. Ours is the best in the industry. Every page is, we have, it's filled out throughout the record book. There's areas you will sign and print your name. We will walk you through the entire record book. So we do a 30-minute record book review follow-up. We'll go through the entire thing, make sure it's all complete. We'll act as the registered agent here in Nevada or whatever state we form it in, most likely Nevada. We have an incredible ncpmembers.com where it's free as a client of ours. As long as you stay in good standing each year, you get access to incredible training. We have videos and audio training, for example. Every part of the record book, we have a video on every part of the record book that's about 5 minutes long to really simplify that. We have audio training. We have frequently recorded webinars on U.S. payroll, U.S. taxes, things of that nature. We can provide the U.S. office phone support if needed. We obviously can obtain your EIN number, the ITIN number, U.S. tax support. We have a program that if you're the type to like coaching on how to do your own books and accounting, that's great. If you'd like a resource, write to a U.S. accounting firm. As being a client of ours, we can do that for you. We do have relationships to establish a U.S. merchant account, a U.S. bank brokerage account. We've done a webinar on immigration. So some of you who may be going back and forth from the U.K. to the United States, you definitely want to be aware of the immigration rules. For example, some of you may want to get an L1 visa at some point, which would make sense. You can come back and forth as much as you want. We do Fast Start webinars that are recorded, so it plays every day of every week. You have access to it as a client. We have our own monthly coaching program called the Top 5% Club I mentioned earlier. We provide you with a Fast Start checklist, so when you do business with us, we give you a checklist to make it simple for you to go through the process. We also do joint venture training, as you talked about, just like Sohail does. We've had the Ultimate Joint Venture Bootcamp for 3 years. We provide training. We have other tools and resources for our clients for you to be successful in that area. We also have legal resources, so if you need a resource for a U.S. contract, you want an attorney to review it, we can provide those resources for you. We have great renewal support at annual renewal time. We call you, we email you, we send the renewal in the mail to make it really turnkey and simple for you. We also have UK tax resources, because I've interviewed a tax firm in the UK, because we've had a lot of UK clients that want a resource, so we have that available. And we also provide important updates throughout the year through teleseminars, webinars, emails, tax updates. We really keep our clients informed, so we really provide a complete one-stop shop solution for operating a U.S. company. So I want to provide you with a very, I think, special bonus if you want to contact us within the next 48 hours, and we can set an appointment to help you through the process. You know, some people have asked me, Scott, what are the fees to set up a company in the U.S. properly? We have different reports on whether you want a company for U.S. real estate, a full U.S. business, if you want to just protect the safe assets. And I'll give you a general ballpark range. Obviously, it depends upon your situation, but to set up a complete company is anywhere from about $2,500 to about $3,500, and there's a couple additional fees. It might be up to $4,000 at the most to set up a U.S. business. But when you think about being a JV broker and doing 1 or 2 deals, obviously that would pay for itself very, very quickly. And it's all business expense in the United States when you set these up. So it's not $10 or $20 or $30,000. It's also not $100 or $200. You'll see U.S. websites say $99 plus state fees to file an LLC. Well, that's like one of 18 steps, and they don't have all the other resources we tell you about. So we're really a one-stop shop when it comes to doing that. So when you contact us within the next 48 hours, here's what we'll do. Just want to incentivize you for taking action to contact us. We'll send you a 20-page report that goes over all the steps, the taxes, and the structure and the fees to set up a U.S. business for doing JV broker. Also, I'm going to send you a very, very important training, which I've never done before, which is on doing joint ventures in the United States. When we held our first Ultimate Joint Venture Bootcamp a couple years ago, we had an attorney, Sherwood Cook, who talked about how to protect yourself in a U.S. contract for JVs. So he went through all the provisions in a contract with doing joint ventures, and I have that in an MP3 audio file. The people who have only seen that are those who were at the boot camp and those who purchased the actual DVDs of that particular training. But what I'm going to do is get that MP3 and provide it to you, because I think that's going to be an important bonus for you if you're looking to do U.S. joint ventures, and especially be a U.S. joint venture broker. So that's all free, by the way. And you also get access to a free 30-minute consultation when you contact us. Obviously, we'd schedule that. So when you contact us, we'll either email you back to pick a time to go through that, and then we'll send you these 2 bonuses via email. So what you do, you can take the next step. You can email us at ncp@nvinc.com. And in the subject, I would recommend, I would say you would put in the subject JV broker, or just put JV webinar, JV webinar, JV broker webinar, something like that in the subject. That'll tell us you're on the webinar. And then just put an email to us. You're on the webinar. You'd love to get the free bonuses, and you would also like to set a time to do a 30-minute free consultation. We'll email you back. If you send us your Skype address, we'll email you back and pick a time that works best for you. If you do want to Skype us, one of the guys in our office, this is probably the best Skype address, is Tony NV Inc. So Tony NVINC, and just let him know you were on the JV Broker webinar and you would like to get the bonuses and set a time to do a 30-minute consultation. Just be patient because we are busy. We might be 2 or 3 days out to be able to schedule an appointment. We do realize your time zone difference, so we're pretty flexible. It works pretty easy if you're in the UK for us. Or if you want, you can call us directly at 702-367-7373. Again, that's 702-367-7373. We could get your information over the phone. We could send you those 2 bonus items, and again, talk about setting an appointment to go through your consultation about your unique situation, the fees. Of course, if you want to follow us on Twitter and Facebook, just search Nevada Corporate Planners, and you'll find us in either situation. So what I want to do is just turn it back to you, Sohail, and see if you have any questions for me or for any next thoughts.
Thank you very much, Scott. That was a very, very structured and well content-driven webinar. I picked up some great points myself, made some notes, and here it is, guys. If any of you are interested in talking to Scott about how to do more business in the US through a proper legal structure, you heard a lot about how you can get caught out if you're doing a lot of business overseas, especially in the US, and how it needs to be structured properly. Definitely email Scott on ncep@nvinc.com and put the subject line in JV webinar. So for those of you who are watching the replay of this webinar, use the same email address, ncp@nvinc.com, but in the subject line, please put JV webinar replay. So we can, it'll be easy for us to track. And yes, definitely get in touch with Scott. Scott knows his stuff. A lot of my friends, myself, and a lot of people in this industry have used Scott's services. And no, Scott, I just wanted to thank you very much for giving us your time and taking up your time, because I know I've been to your offices and I know how busy you guys are, and how busy you guys get over there. So Scott, just want to say thank you very much for your time on the webinar today, and I look forward to seeing you soon when I'm back in Vegas.
Yeah, you're very welcome, Sohail.
Excellent. Okay, brilliant. Okay,
yeah, sounds outstanding. Looking forward to seeing you in person, and it's been my pleasure today.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Scott. And thank you very much, everyone else, for attending today's webinar. I hope you found as much as you wanted to out of it in terms of content-wise. Go ahead, contact Scott on those details you see right now, and also pick up your special bonus. And guys, also if you can on Facebook, just put some comments and posts and tweets and just let everyone know what you thought of the webinar.